Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So in today's video I'm going to be checking out how best to defeat this Silver Surfer and all of the annoying nodes he has. Now first two nodes, Hit Me, I Dare You and Personal Space, are basically nodes that will give him extra buffs. Basically every 10 hits you land on this guy will give him an armor up buff, and as you hang around him close by, he's going to constantly be gaining furies. Now the other two nodes, Rich Get Richer, basically means whichever champion has more unique buffs on will gain a passive power gain. And last one is a life cycle. Now life cycle is an obviously all-time favorite for us if you have tried 6-1 either way. So we're going to go through some matchups that I find to be quite interesting and relatively easy as well. So first things first, we jumped in here with a rank 4 Venom just because we want to abuse, well, first of all, his level 1 nullify on that, healing on that, and additionally the fact that Venom does have many unique buffs does mean that Venom gets the passive power gain and Silver Surfer does not. So even if you're not playing perfect, Venom is a fantastic option because you can afford to take some chip damage, eat some special attacks, and recover all of the health, and in the process you will constantly be having power gain and you're going to be dropping your level 1s as crazy. So Venom is definitely an interesting option, and as this first fight is going along, I will try and kind of explain my best the timings of his special attacks. Now I have gotten level 1 timing to a quite decent degree by practicing today and recording all this footage, and the level 2 timing as well. It's kind of similar to Human Torch where you need to time it right where you, and occasionally you should be swiping faster than you kind of get used to, I suppose. But either way, the cue for me to wait that level 1, obviously the initial motion is fairly simple. The beam is not the most tricky to evade. It's basically fairly straightforward. It doesn't have too huge of a window. But the tricky bit in timing that level 1 is knowing when to evade that surfboard coming from above. Now my cue evading that surfboard is when I see it just disappear in the ground after the level 1 beam. Like right now when it disappears in the ground, I'm trying to dash back twice. Now it is still a bit kind of like tricky to get it always right. I have gotten better at it by now, but yeah, it's something you just need to kind of find your cue. My cue is just looking at the surfboard and seeing it disappear in the ground, and then I do 2 dashbacks, and it typically works out for most part. But yeah, so Venom, either way, a fantastic option because you can get a lot of heal, you can get all of his buffs in control, and you can basically steal the power gain that was meant to be his for yourself. When it comes to dealing with a life cycle node itself, there are several kind of ways how to get around it. Most importantly, you should know that heal block and the debuffs in general in combination with the spare mastery will be your friend, so they will not be able to heal back to full 10% when a life cycle activates, but instead they will heal either nothing or to a couple percent, which makes that node considerably easier. But the base idea is you have to keep knocking that Silver Surfer down via heavy attacks or special attacks, and every time you knock the opponent down, that life cycle gets disabled. First time you knock opponent down, it gets disabled for 30 seconds, I believe. Sorry, not that long, but either way, every consecutive time you knock the opponent down again and again and again, that cooldown period increases and you kind of have a bigger window of opportunity to finish off the fight. But again, the main cue is knock the opponent down, and only then you will be able to KO the guy. So initially you just want to randomly spam some heavy attacks, some special attacks, and then when it gets closer to the fight, you want to time your heavy attack before you are able to do some damage. The easiest way how to achieve that typically is to save up to your level 3, drop a heavy attack, disable life cycle, and shoot your level 3, and that will finish the fight. So that is by far the easiest way how to deal with the life cycle. I have also made a video where I go in more detail about that node, and it was a video about Act 6 Chapter 2 first quest. And yeah, if you need or think you would use more information about it, then definitely do go check out the video about 6-1. Now, second really cool matchup is Morningstar. And this is a rank 3 Morningstar with Mystic Dispersion at level 4. And the basic idea here is also quite cool, because you do get to nullify all of the Silver Surfer's buffs. And with that, since Morningstar typically does trigger a couple of her own, for most part you will also be stealing that power gain from the node for yourself, and you will be able to spam special attacks more often. Additionally, obviously Silver Surfer gets buffs by himself, gets buffs from the nodes, and that will basically fuel your level 2, and you will be able to spam your level 2s pretty much back to back to back, and dealing a lot of damage in the process, also extending the cooldown of that life cycle node. And that typically makes it for quite an easy fight, because for most part of the fight Silver Surfer will have no buffs, you will have extra power gain, and whenever he starts to get some buffs, you will have your level 2 ready, and you can easily kind of finish out the fight. And yeah, that was one of the easier options kind of like that I could see. But by far the easiest option for this fight, once again, is Ronan. And that's pretty much the only thing you have to do, as always with Ronan, is get your level 1 and the fight is yours for most part. Because the longer you stay close to him, the more fury buffs he gains. And additionally, the more hits you land at him, the more armor ups he has. And each of these buffs do extend your stun duration, and typically by the time you are ready to launch your level 1, he will have enough buffs to make sure that you can basically stun lock him infinitely. And that is it. You have nothing else to worry about. The fight is yours. Just flat out start off with a parry, do a full hit combo, repeat that process another 2 times or however long it takes to get to the level 1, and the opponent will be stunned forever. You just keep spamming your level 1s, and eventually you will catch the Silver Surfer with life cycle down. It's basically as easy as it comes. You cannot get easier uncollected boss kills than that. Now, obviously, when it comes to Silver Surfer, you can use majority of the champions, and power control champions are also a fantastic option, like Magic. And we will have, however, a fair warning in this video. We're gonna see how he gets to KO me. But yeah, so the idea is you get your first level 2, and then you're pretty much set. Then you can play as aggressively as you want. Unfortunately, you do have to worry about those fury buffs for a while though, because you will be spending a lot of time nearby Silver Surfer, and that will, however, mean that his attack is going to go up and up and up. Eventually, you can use it to your advantage by dropping a level 3 and nullifying all of those buffs and dealing a huge chunk of damage. But before you do nullify those furies, if you do make a mistake, you can get punished quite hard. But again, as we can see, once we got to our first level 2, the fight is well under our control. There's not too much to worry about, except for something that is fairly peculiar for Silver Surfer. And right here, Silver Surfer recovers slowly from his heavy attack. So quite often, if you do rush in too fast, your first hit after knocking him down might just kind of whiff, because it's a very weird animation timing, and it's something definitely to be aware of. And here we have another fun matchup against Silver Surfer. It's Man-Thing. Now, I do understand that most of the people don't have Man-Thing ranked, but I'm just enjoying having some fun with Man-Thing, because of all of those buffs, you get to nullify many of them, and at the same time put a lot of armor breaks and poisons on the guy. And additionally, if you keep his buffs in control, typically you have 1-2 buffs of your own. You can quite often benefit from the power gain node for yourself if you have nullified all of the Silver Surfer buffs. And it's just a fun and interesting fight, as always with Man-Thing, by spamming special attacks, spamming heavy attacks. The one thing is, again, yeah, you do need to kind of like be fairly comfortable evading that level 1 attack. But aside from that, it's absolutely crazy amount of fun with Man-Thing. Now, here we have another fight with Scarlet Witch, because why not? Scarlet Witch as a 4-star is still perfectly viable option for this fight as well, especially if you have Mystic Dispersion on, which I do at 4 still. And why is she good? Well, quite simple, because you can nullify majority of Silver Surfer's buffs. Also, you have regeneration for times like when you mess up, like now. Also, you are able to gain buffs for yourself, therefore steal that power gain from the node, because you constantly nullify Silver Surfer's buffs. And all in all, you can throw some good level 2s and have a fairly fun time, and just remember why you loved Scarlet Witch in the first place. This is a fairly perfect matchup to showcase that. And yeah, I definitely enjoyed having some fun with Scarlet Witch. And Doctor Strange, speaking about all-time favorites, now Doctor Strange is another very cool option for this fight, especially if you are lucky to have like a 5-star or 6-star. And if you have him awakened, then especially so, because with Doctor Strange awakened ability, you will be able to counterspell majority of the buffs Silver Surfer receives. And even if you don't, then you can drop a level 3 here and there and then nullify all of his buffs which got through the cracks, you would say. And all in all, obviously Doctor Strange has some regeneration with Mystic Dispersion and a lot of buffs involved. You can spam your special attacks, and it's just a quite fun time all in all. I definitely do enjoy using these champions still when I get the chance, even though they might not be the best options. But we already showcased the best option, which is Ronan. There's nothing better than Ronan for this fight whatsoever. But yeah, Doctor Strange, 4-star, still can get the job done. Another interesting option is Mephisto. Obviously, with his soul imprisonment, you can prevent Silver Surfer from gaining any buffs. Plus, if you manage to drop a well-timed level 3, you can have your constant aura active. And yeah, Mephisto also works relatively well in this matchup. I do have to add, though, that Mephisto has to be ranked up appropriately, because if the fight kind of extends for too long, then you're going to run out of your souls. And then he's going to start getting buffs, and then it's not going to be as easy anymore. However, Mephisto definitely does relatively well in this matchup and has class advantage as well, so that is helpful. And since Silver Surfer is not bleed or poison immune, we have Archangel, which kind of suffers slightly because of life cycle node, because damage over time effects deal no damage. However, neurotoxins are passives, and passive effects still deal damage, so your main source of damage, which is neurotoxins, still work. Plus, obviously, the ability accuracy reduction Archangel brings helps you out by basically slowing down the speed Silver Surfer will gain his buffs. And overall, yeah, he is a high damage, still a good option for this fight. Now, I did make a mistake here, I accidentally ate a combo, but it's not the biggest deal. We can still easily finish off the fight. And Archangel is also good for life cycle in particular, because so long as you have at least one neurotoxin active, whenever you knock opponent down, they will die, basically, because they cannot heal even if life cycle is active. And as soon as you knock them down, the damage over time effects from neurotoxins will finish out the fight for you. So yeah, it is one of the easier ways how to kind of like cheese the last 10% of the life cycle, because neuros prevent the heal, and as soon as the life cycle is disabled, the damage basically will finish out the fight for you. And speaking of damage over time effects, even though damage over time effects don't work on life cycle, champion abilities do. And Void technically doesn't have any damage over time effects. Void has an ability to damage opponent based on how many debuffs they have active. So Void's abilities still work under life cycle. And that is perfect, because Void is also a fantastic option for this fight in general. Largely due to the Petrify buffs, you will be able to negate the power gain. And also because of Petrify buffs and or Despair Mastery, you will kind of ignore the life cycle heal as well. So you kind of have the same effect you had with Archangel. So as soon as your Silver Surfer is going to be at 1% health, the first time you knock them down, that life cycle will not be able to regenerate any health for Silver Surfer, and basically the first tick of damage will finish out the fight. So you can completely ignore the life cycle node with Void, and only thing you have to do is knock that Silver Surfer down at least once at end of the fight, and that is pretty much it. All in all, that will do for today. I hope this video will help you guys. If you in case are struggling with Silver Surfer, do remember that a Ronan is still the best and easiest answer to this guy, but there are plenty others too. Either way, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, hit that like. See ya!